Hello, today I'm just going to show you something very quick, and it's just basically how to generate really fast, futuristic looking cityscapes. But the concepts I'm showing here, you can take it into a plethora of things once you understand how it works. We'll be using particles, and then we'll be using the collection instances of the particles to generate models. That was a mouthful. So, when we open up a new scene here in Blender, we'll have a default cube. We're gonna, keep this friend here. However, we're gonna duplicate him with Shift D. Bring him over, and I'm gonna enable screencast keys just so you can see what I'm doing. Let's see here. Excellent. So let me delete this again. Shift D. You can see right there. And now we just duplicated this. We're gonna use this as a basis of the building. Contour. Those are the words, and we're gonna add in a new collection. So I'm gonna hit M over here, new collection, and let's just call this parts because that's where we're gonna store all our random parts. And hit OK, and we can see on the top right, parts is up here, and our cube. Let's just call this base here for now. I'll call it base. I just want to keep things organized, and I'll just call this part. There we go. Alright, so now we can grab this and start manipulating the base shape. So I'm just going to do basic transformation operations on here just to get some sort of interesting silhouette. So you can see here, probably add like a little thing this way. Oh. I don't know if you can hear a little scurrying around. That's the cat. Okay, and then let's use this, indent this. Thinking maybe we can extrude this up. Handy feature for extruding is Alt E, and then we're going to extrude the faces along the normal. And now when we move up, you can see it's going along the normal, facing up that way. That's kind of what I want. And we can probably bevel this edge here just to get some interesting cuts this way. Alt E, along normal. Yeah, that looks like a... Again, you can make this as complex or as simple as you need. Alt E, along normal. Let's... Handy feature 2 if you want to zero things in is scale along the Z-axis and just Z0, and now you can see like straightens it out, and you can do that with a lot of other things here. This looks kind of funky. What's going on here? Alright, let's do that there. And I kind of want this edge to move kind of like that and bevel that. Alright, cool. So now we have our weird looking building here. What else do we have here? Well, we have this part, and what we're going to do is populate this shape all across here. But we can... I'll show you. I'm thinking too ahead. Yep, I'm thinking too far ahead. Okay, so we're going to create a particle instance on this shape, and we're going to populate it with just a basic cube, just so you guys understand how things are working. If anything, I'll just do a quick example too, where I'll just copy this part over, so cube, and let's just move this out of our part collection. This is an example. You don't have to follow this step here. This is just for learning's sake. So move that to scene collection. So the basic idea is I'll be using a part collection and be populating the faces of this with this cube. So I'm going to go into the particle properties, which is located here. Looks like particles shooting out or atoms exploding. You can hit add. Particle settings is now enabled. Emitter. You can see it's starting to emit something. If we hit play, it's just going to explode little balls here. But that's not what we want. We want hair. So you can see all this weird strands of hair sticking out. Now we're going to use this to our advantage because we're going to replace these weird little strands of hair with actual models that we have. We're going to use our friend part here and populate all the faces here. So how do we do that? Well, let us go into... Let's see here, render. And now, right now it's rendering as a path with a material. We're going to switch that to a collection. And it's asking what collection? The collection of parts. And now if we hit A, we can see everything Z-clipping. That's what this looks like. It's because the faces are exactly on top of each other, creating this weird Z-clipping. But that's kind of cool, as you can see what's happening already. How do we fix this? Well, we can see this scale here. We can randomize the scale a lot, and now we're getting kind of like a Borg cube or greebling. This is how fast greebling can be done. So let's do it like this, and look at that. We already have something very complex with very basic shapes. But what else can we do with this? Well, since it's using a basic cube, remember what I talked about previously with this building, is it derives the shape from whatever's underneath. So if I scale the cube up, you can kind of see what's happening. It's distributing the particles all around. Currently, we have 1,000 cubes, all in varying sizes, on this rectangle now. But if we go in, Alt-Tab in, it's not actually here. So we can actually go in and start making random shapes. So if I drag this up and bring this up like this, you can see it tries to conform to the shape here. We can try and get this a little bit more drastic so we can see what's going on. And you can see that's pretty cool. What else can we do with this? Actually, you know what? I think I might abandon this idea here now that I think about this, because this is just, I'm just going to show you what what it's all about here. Anyway, let's delete this camera here. So what else can we do here? I mean, this is super cool already. You can do a lot of fun things with this. But there's something cool that I enjoy. And now that is in the Advanced tab. If we click that, we have some new settings that pop up. Mainly rotation. If we enable rotation, we can start randomizing the way these are. Now, this isn't working right now, as you can see. It's because it's talking about the hair. But we can do that with any of the coordinates here. These XYZ, XYZ with global and object, and as well as the normal here, will all have different kinds of effects. You might have to go through until you find something that suits your aesthetic needs or whatever pleases your own eye. But just for an example, let's say if the orientation axis is none, you can see nothing's happening. What actually happens, whoop, now you can see something's changed here. So you can see it's actually following the way the normals are. If we hit none, it'll be perfectly straight, up and down. There's no changes whatsoever. What you see is what you get. So if we go to normal, which is what I would tend to use because it's following the curvature of the model underneath, we can randomize this. You can see you get all these kind of weird effects. Now this looks a little different, kind of chaotic, but you can always just add just a slightly bit. I mean, sometimes it's always nice to go super far just to see what the example is and then tone it down. Like, you know, I might just do something like small like that, just to have, you know, some fun little looks here. Alright, so we can play with the scale randomness here. We can change the scale, you know, just to change it like this. We're going to make it a bit larger. I kind of like it a little bit large where it's overlapping because it has some like cool looks to it. And object scale, we can actually take object rotation. There's all these other stuff here. Again, we can change the seed. Now, what this does is it actually, if you take a look, we're not actually changing the amount of instances of this cube here. We're just changing the randomized locations of it. And that's what the seed is. So let's say if you have something you don't like the arrangement where you're like, you know what, I actually don't like what this cube is doing here, or anything for this face. You can like change it this way. Now, that's pretty cool. How do we evolve from here? Well, you can actually go in this part, and you can see it's selected all these parts here. And if I start actually editing this, you can see it's starting to randomize certain locations here. Now, it's going to be tricky because this is a cube here, so we have to like see which faces are facing where. So it looks like I was choosing this one, which is inside. This one's outside. So let's change this a bit so you can see. So now, if I go inwards, bring this in, break these down in, and do this, I've created little windows. As you can see here, I can also scale this to try and make it like a futuristic apartment building that you'll see in some sort of dystopian world. That's pretty cool. We can have separate instances. Now, what I mean by that is we are currently instancing the collection of parts, where we only have one part. However, if we have multiple parts, I'll start randomizing it all over the place. So let's say if I just decide to add this part and put it inside my parts. Oh, it is. Okay. If I scale this up, you can see it's a little bit different. Just to make more of a distinction, let's just say if I extrude this outwards, and then let's make this window slightly bigger, which I will do like this. Bring this up, and then let us maybe have it extend a bit more further out this way. You can see now we're getting some really funky looking shapes. Like, this is super cool, man. Like, oh, I love stuff like this. Alright, so I have these two shapes here. Well, let's add another one. We actually don't have to keep duplicating this. We can actually drag in another shape or other models inside here, but I don't have it on hand at the moment. But look what happens if I, let's say, create a cylinder. You can see cylinders are now being populated here. Let's bring this down, maybe rotate this. It looks like the rotation doesn't actually matter because we haven't specified that yet. There's a lot of things you can do with the particle editor, and I haven't really prepared much stuff for this. I just wanted to show some quick ways on how to get started, because again, I always encourage play and like having fun and experimenting a lot, because you'll start developing really cool techniques to try things out. So let's say, okay, so now we've clicked on here and you see everything selected underneath. What happens if I want this at the top? So I hit I to inset, bring this upwards, and now we have this. Now we can go here and start rendering things out. You can see the light source is here, but you know, you can get like, look at that. Oof, you combine that with a volumetrics, and this is going to look pretty cool. This is already cool. Now, oh, I keep saying now. This is my favorite word right now. So, if I click on this, duplicate this, and move this to a different side, see what happens when you start scaling things? You start rotating this around. You can start building a very complex cityscape with all its junk. And we can go in and start changing the way these things interact. So let's see what happens if I do this. Very cool, huh? Alright, what else can we do here? Well, you can also derive different materials. So if I quickly add in a different material here, oops, let's copy this fast, and let's say this is metallic now, and let's make this slightly blue. Alright, copy this, make this maybe orange like this, and then let's do a new one here, and let's just make this slightly red. We can go back here, create a new material, and then we could I know I'm going a bit fast here, but I just wanted to show you what you can end up doing eventually once you're very familiar with the system here. And then we can go in and change this to an emission. We can assign it to here, and let's just make it, I don't know, like that. You can kind of see and develop really futuristic cityscapes. Now the object underneath here doesn't really have a color, so we can do something different like that. There you go. Let's do this, and we actually don't need to have these parts here. These parts can be somewhere off in the distance, and that's pretty cool. Like, it takes in all the shader information, and I think we could actually link in particle effects. If I go here, my particle effects is here, so I can just click on that. So you don't have to like link things from or copy objects all the time. You can create an entirely new shape and link it. And I know there's some crazy things where you could go here. I think you can reference itself where no, you can't. Alright, we learned something new. But you can see what's happening. Hopefully you can take this system and play around with it, try some new things out. It's pretty fun. Alright, thank you.